you need a snack or some drink, it's there. If you haven't been to our office, just around the corner here. So, welcome to the meeting here tonight. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Little Scioto Watershed Group and the public interest that's surrounding that topic. For those of you that are joining us online, if you can type your name, and if you have an organization or any affiliation into the chat box, that'll help us log folks that are here and haven't signed in. Matt, you go ahead and do the next slide there.
Can you,
Or do we have a clicker?
is this the anchor? I'm getting a feedback on here.
Maybe because, oh no, weird. Is that muted?
Should be. Hopefully.
Or it might be, is that, if that doesn't have a mic on it.
This is the anchor. Okay,
Are they saying there's feedback?
I think it was me.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, I think it's me. Sorry.
No problems.
So, clear the Jason.
There we go.
Go ahead and the next slide. Madison. So again, if you haven't signed in, please go ahead and do so. We're going to have a presentation style here in a minute. If you'll hold questions till the end of those segments, that'll help us get through all the information. We plan to have plenty of time at the end to stick around and talk as long as folks want, with exception. I guess Henry doesn't want to be here till 9 o'clock, but again, refreshments and everything in the back. And thank you for being here and thank you for joining us online. Go ahead, Madison. My name's Kyle Wilson. I'm the Assistant Director here at Franklin Soil and Water on behalf of Madison Wisniewski, our Conservation Implementation Specialist, Henry Stahl, our Watershed Resource Specialist, and the guy who's going to be helping with the majority of this, and Tori Robinson, one of our AmeriCorps members here in Central Ohio. We welcome you to Franklin Soil and Water. A little bit about tonight. We are going to go around and do some introductions. Again, we'll have opportunity for folks online to participate. Henry's going to go over the reason of why we're here, talking about Franklin Soil and Water and the Middle Scioto Watershed, giving you a little bit of the history that we know, opportunities of how we may be able to support a group, and really get your input and feedback on what some of that could potentially look like. Then we're going to hear from Laura Flo about her experience with Watershed Group. Did I say Laura Flo? Laura Fay? I think we should call her Laura Flo. Laura Fay, her experience with Friends of Low Roll and Tangy. Obviously, if there's something to do with the Watershed Group and what it has to go through to get momentum and get things done, Laura knows firsthand about those topics. Then we're going to break out into a couple small groups, give you a set of questions to work through. Hopefully, we'll build information that we can use to utilize what this group may look like moving forward. Is it a formal group? Is it informal? Are there certain topics that this group wants to address, or is it more of an umbrella group? And start getting those things out. We don't think we're going to leave here with a, okay, here's what we're going to do, let's go do it type of solution. We think this is the starting point. There's probably going to be other opportunities like this to help shape this thing. But what I'd like to reemphasize is that if it's a citizen-led effort and folks are there and passionate about what could be done, Franklin Soil and Water and others will be here to support that. We don't have the capacity ourselves to go do all this great work on our own. But if there is an effort put together here, we will do everything we can to support that effort. So icebreaker. Next slide there, Madison. I think it's on the next slide. Yeah, so Madison came up with a little bit of an icebreaker here, I think. We're just going to ask you to go around the room, give your name, If you're with any organization or representing an organization here, that's fine. If you're just a private citizen, that's fine as well. But the icebreaker we're looking for to include is we're going on a trip to the Scioto River. What's the one thing that you're going to bring? So Henry said kayak because he loves kayaking, binoculars because I love birding. I think that was Nick, right?
Yeah,
It's Big Bird. So if we'll just start over here and just name and quick answers to our questions here.
I am Lauren Barber and I'm just a citizen. And if I'm going to the river, I'm bringing my dogs. 'Cause I take my dog to the river.
And I'm Shirley Kramer, just a concerned citizen. If I go to the Scioto River, I'm gonna take some bug spray.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I am Kathy Levy, and I'm from the Friends of the Trail, which is a volunteer group that I lead that gets rid of the invasives along the Scioto Run Nature Trail, which is 11.5 acre park. And we always want volunteers.
Oh, cool.
Sign up here, get one of my cards.
Great, thank you.
If I'm going to the Scioto River, I'm bringing my dog Sheldon and a plastic bag so I can pick up litter along the way.
There you go. We've got a program just about that. So, Tori?
Yeah, I'm Tori. I work here. And if I go to the Scioto River, I want to have hiking boots with me.
There you go.
Hi, all. David Roseman, board member volunteer with Friends of Allen Creek and Tributaries, otherwise known as FACT, or Allen Creek Watershed below the Allen Creek State Reservoir Dam. I would bring my camera, cell phone, whatever, for mapping and documentation. Also take pictures of birds and beavers and stuff like that.
There you go. Thanks. Anthony?
Anthony Sasson. I work part-time for MBI, Midwest Biodiversity Institute, and I'm an active member of the Dartmouth Creek Association, Central Ohio Watershed Council, all that good stuff. And let's see, what I would bring on a trip, I guess I'd have to bring a boat. But the other thing, I'd always bring a camera, and maybe I'd bring a bag of some type to collect fossil fuels.
Hi, I'm Shelley Douglas. I'm the executive director of Creek Columbus, also the chair of the Central Ohio Watershed Council. I would also bring my phone because I like to use iNaturalist to figure out what I'm looking at.
There you go. Me too. Laura Flo?
Laura Fay, and I'm a resident of the Scioto Watershed, so I'm very excited that y'all are here to pick up the pace of love for the Scioto. And I would take everything with me. I always take too much, walk, glitter grabber.
I am Sarah Esla. I'm with the city of Dublin in our outreach and engagement department. So we have a lot of volunteers that are fantastic and interested in this topic. And for myself, I would bring a mug of coffee because I am a meanderer and just spend time looking around.
I'm Madison Wisniewski, Franklin Swim and Water. If I was going to the river, I'd probably bring my camera. Take pictures of. I was the one that actually said I love birds.
I said
It was.
sanitizer, but that's just because I know too much about the site. Go ahead.
Joe Carter, resident of the Watershed. If I was going to the side of the river, I would take a hiking stick, and if we're lucky enough to have snow on the ground, take our cross country.
I'm Petra Schmalbrook, also a resident of the Watershed, volunteering for various organizations, including Flow. I bring probably my camera to ID flowers. So I'm on my bike for biking, so I'm bike trail.
In the future, right?
I'm Peter Schultz, I'm a citizen, take a pair of shoes and like water on the road.
I'm Elaine Engel, I'm a citizen, and I would take a picnic because that's my my love of life, food and nature.
There you go. Right here.
Randy Rogers. I think my official title is the Lorax of Greenlawn Cemetery. And since Berliner Park and the Whittier Peninsula and the cemetery kind of comprise the Montalona area, I would endorse bringing that binoculars.
Great.
Matt, I'm with 3-1 Cemetery as well. I didn't know he was coming. I also was a certified kayak instructor along the South. So for several years, I spent a lot of time.
And I would bring, oh, I'd probably say a bag to pick up litter and pair of shoes, just walk in the dirt. Good.
I'm Alex. I work with Midwest Biodiversity Institute, along with Anthony. I'm the full-time macrovertebrate ecologist. And I would really love to just, maybe have like a recreational kayak and I'm bringing a fishing pole.
My name's Jenna Muller-Knapp. I work with Mad Scientist Associates, and I'm also a volunteer with Flow and Facts occasionally. And if I were going to the river, I would bring probably some different water shoes, monk boots or waders, because I like to get in the water.
Hi, I'm Leanne Ward. I'm supervisory board here at Soil and Water. I volunteer in a lot of backflow, terms sawmill wetland. And I would bring both my camera to take pictures and my dog, because he gets a
Good, so, a lot of dog lovers, that's great. So again, if you're online, if you don't mind, just throwing your information in there and letting us know some of the things you would take to Scioto as well. And with that, Madison, if you go ahead and advance. I'm gonna turn things over to Henry and he'll start kind of getting into the meat of this and once we get through the presentations again, we'll have a lot of discussion and then that breakout session.
Thanks, Cal. So, for the icebreaker, like I said, I'm Henry Stahl, work here at Franklin Soil and Water. I'm a water resource specialist. And kayak is a new one for me. I just got some kayaks over Christmas and I've already been planning. I'd like to, over the next couple of years, hit every river mile in the county. And then try to, sell Kyle on the idea that that's work, but we'll see if that pans out. Yeah, so, some of you I've been talking to for the last couple months and some of you recently. I really appreciate everyone being here tonight, helping us sort this out. We call this Middle Scioto Watershed kind of based on just, a way EPA designates stuff. That's a working name. It's kind of a confusing name too, because, when you talk about the Scioto, you're talking about this whole area here. This big pink section there, and a lot of Pickaway County, Delaware, a little bit of Union. So that's based on some EPA designations. It includes a lot of different tributaries to the Scioto, like Garvin, that sort of thing. It might be beyond the scope of what this group or the focus of what this group might work with. Majority of, like I said, this designation is kind of in Franklin County and a couple of other counties. Good, next slide, please. But I figure if you give a little context to this, main stem here that we have, the Scioto River, it's a major river here in Ohio. It has over 6,500 square miles of drainage going through over 30 counties. EPA level 3 ecoregions break it down into mostly eastern Corn Belt plains, that northwest, then the western Allegheny Plateau there in the southeast towards Lancaster and that sort of area, really heavily forested, and then a couple other small ones. Scioto River, from where it starts in Auglaize to where it meets the Ohio at Portsmouth, is 239 miles. So it's pretty impressive. Next slide. This is some document or some figures from the recent ODA Region 4 watershed plan. That was first edition was published a few months ago. And so this is kind of looking at, a bigger picture and then where we kind of fit in. So across the entire Scioto watershed, most of it is cultivated cropland, particularly that stuff in the northwest, a lot of corn and soybeans. That southeastern section, that Allegheny Plateau, really heavily forested. You can see there in the green. And then the developed area, 14%, is highly concentrated, as you can see, right there around Franklin County, a little bit up in Delaware, a little bit down there as well in the south. But overall, we've got upstream of us, we've got a lot of cultivated crops and a little bit more development. So that's just putting into context of what's coming down the river towards us. Looking at the impervious surface, of course, it makes sense. The most heavily developed areas have the most impervious surface here. Some of these are hydrologic unit codes, 12, there's a designation for size. You can see all the ones there in Franklin County, most of them are in that 26 to 40, the yellow percent impervious, or 41 to 60% impervious. On the left is a great diagram from the Center for Watershed Protection, and it kind of shows how impervious surface relates to stream quality. A lot of times those urban drainage on the right part of the graph there, you see 60 to 100% impervious surface. We're really getting heavily impacted in even non-supporting sections. There's a lot of issues with runoff and pollution, and, habitat degradation, encroachment, a lot of floodplain and those sorts of things in the urban streams. So there is a strong correlation between the quality of a stream and its imperviousness around it. Zooming in a little bit more, kind of looking at central Ohio, we kind of have 5 major waterways in the county. Currently, we kind of have active citizen groups for 3 of them. Laura Faye's representing Flow tonight. We have David Roseman of FACT on the Alum. Anthony sometimes helps out with the Darby Creek Association over there on the west side. But looking at the map here, the Scioto is a major watershed coming through the central area here. And we don't have a group there right now. In the past, there's been groups, and there's been a lot of different watershed groups. They kind of come and gone, and we really want to see at least a watershed group for every one of these major watersheds. Next slide, please. Talking a little bit about research and work that's being done to kind of understand the conditions in the Scioto watershed. There is currently, EPA is working on the total maximum daily loads report for the Scioto. That's in progress. That's kind of a process that's developed by EPA. They conduct sampling. It identifies pollutants and establishes production in addition to sort of the Clean Water Act requirements. So right now we don't have one for that. There's some draft documents and that sort of thing floating out as they're progressing towards more acutely defining what is impacting the watershed. Another document that kind of works towards that goal is the NIPSIS plans, or non-point source implementation strategies plans. Big mouthful. 9-element plan is a lot nicer. These you can see on the map on the right, orange polygons there are watersheds that do have a NIPSIS plan in place. We're working on one for Rush Run, which is in Olentangy up there in the north. But as you can see, the county in general lacks watershed plans, and particularly the side that doesn't have any. These are nice plans because A, they open up a new funding stream for municipalities and groups through EPA Section 319. But also, these plans are great because they help, again, focus on what is locally affecting watershed, those critical areas, and what strategies need to be addressed to improve resources at this kind of watershed scale. So you're talking 30, 40 square miles scale. A little bit about what we've done in the watershed, and maybe a little bit more clarification on what geography we might be talking about with this group. So on the right, there is a map that our GIS team put together that kind of shows several different Puck 12 kind of 30 square mile watersheds in the black outline there. And those are the ones that drain the Scioto and kind of go through the county. Then you have the kind of smaller blue polygons inside of there. Those are what we call sewer sheds. So you have a watershed, which is, a natural water course. If it drops on top of one side of the mountain, it'll go down there and terminate at a single point, right? A sewer shed is similar, but in an urban environment, you have a lot more complexity in that you have pipe streams, you have basins, you've got stormwater infrastructure. All these things really complicate, and you kind of see where they're squared off, the drainage areas. So it is part of what we've done with Columbus to try to understand, where sections are draining. And as you can see, we don't have a perfect sewer shed map for Scioto huts yet, but we have a good amount of understanding. There's just a huge field component. You need to go out there and look at every manhole and see, does this line actually dump into here? Does it pass through? There's a lot of man hours, time spent poring over maps and records. When you talk about water, storm sewer lines in the city going back over 100 years, it's a pretty robust, intense system. But this is kind of more of the area perhaps this group has been kind of touched. But like I said, what we've done in the watershed, we've done some volunteer events over there. That first picture of the slide had me, Amy from our office and some volunteers. We were doing a litter cleanup at a easement, a big run. We've done many grant projects this past year. We awarded neck care, a mini grant for tree plantings, native tree plantings at their Miles House facility. We've done the rain garden projects over there with Hilliard City Schools and a bunch of other projects. I mentioned conservation easements a little bit ago, so we do administer conservation easements along stream corridors in the county. Several of them fall within the Scioto. That's go out there, we inspect them, we ensure that there isn't any encroachment or degradation, that kind of thing, and help maintain those easements for the future, preserving them for their water quality characteristics and their importance to habitat. Community backyard irrigate program. Has anyone here participated in that? Okay, that's just that is one of our biggest programs. We actually did nearly $100,000 of rebates last year across the county. Huge. That's awesome. We love to be able to leverage that and help people get out there and do this conservation in their backyard. So Michaela just posted about that and earlier today. And wow, it was $97,000 or something. So a lot of rebates went out in the community to get rain barrels and native plants and those things. All these things to help improve our water quality. Do a lot of youth education. We have a awesome education team here, Linda and Amy. They're in they see thousands of students across the county. A lot of them in Scioto, Columbus City schools, and that sort of thing. And getting out there to the schools, running programs, and helping inspire and educate the next generation. So that's a huge aspect of work we do. And then also we do a lot with municipalities regarding their separate storm sewer system MS4 permitting requirements. So it's a lot with managing stormwater ponds and construction inspections, those sorts of things, and ensuring that we're trying to maintain the water quality, follow all the aspects of the permit. And from our perspective, we really think that watershed groups are important. For us, it helps build those connections with their citizens and municipalities, government agencies, and it helps make those connections. Another thing it does is it helps provide more data on the watershed. So we're 25-ish people, I don't remember how many, 24 at the office here, and the county is pretty vast, and there's 3 million people in the metro area or something. It's crazy. So we can't be everywhere at once, obviously. It's nice when we have a good relationship with watershed groups. They can help focus us and help find places that are of interest or places that we think that they need support. It's just more data points that are feeding back to us. We can help act a little more efficiently. Also, like I said, watershed groups really help connect residents to natural spaces. I often go out and volunteer with Flo back sometimes, and it's great to get out there on the water in a new park, a new place, and be able to connect with like-minded people, to be able to learn a little bit and that sort of thing. I think that that's a huge component to getting people excited and interested in the watershed. Same space helps raise that awareness, educate the public, and we think that this watershed groups is this sort of two-way street, communication and resources. I know that, we get a lot of information from Facts, Flow, Big Darby Association, Darby Creek Association, excuse me, and Green Columbus. It's this back and forth, and we're learning and trying to help connect and really amplify each other's work. And then lastly, watershed groups can really leverage volunteers and continue to get work done on the ground in the county. So I have a bunch of examples here: invasive species removal, habitat restoration, litter cleanup, green infrastructure installation. There's a lot of ways for watershed groups to complete on the ground work and help push forward that conservation. Kyle mentioned earlier, we want to support this group or what comes of it, however we can, whatever form that is. We want this group to be the citizens that are interested in it. We don't want to be telling you what to do. We want to help you and provide resources when you need them, but we want this group to be citizen-led with our support. We want citizens to have the buy-in, citizens to eventually, run the group or whatever structure it ends up being, self-actualize. As far as that goes, we'll try to empower you through technical assistance and other support. Help make those connections to groups and resources we have. Then, actually, partner for events. We table at a lot of different events for watershed groups, and then we promote events through our newsletters, through our social media, or other watershed groups to try to help grow it and get eyes on it. This is just a quick run through some resources that we thought of off the top of the head that might be beneficial to the watershed group. So, like I mentioned, some of our programs internally here, we have a Columbus Tree Assistance Program, Columbus Business Rebates, our mini grant program, all that stuff's on our website. Check that out. That's just ways to get money out in the community to help fund conservation work. Green Columbus, we have Julie and Shelley, and you guys have the quarter acre of prairie seeds, native prairie seeds you guys put out there, and how do people go about getting that?
Julie. You can reach out to Green Columbus, reach out to me.
Okay.
Any contact box you find will come to me.
Okay. And you guys have your sapling giveaway. That was beginning of February, I think, right?
Yeah.
And there's a ton. You guys do a ton of volunteer organization. Blows my mind. Are you sick of hearing the words Earth Day yet? Earth Month?
It's close.
Yeah.
Close.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Green Clubs does a great job with hosting all those events and really facilitating a lot of awesome work in the county. Midwest Biodiversity Institute, great resource for a lot of different things, data and training in particular. I think that the expertise that you guys offer is really awesome, really influential. WarpC, I don't have anyone from WarpC here tonight, but there is a 2015 report and kind of group called Sustaining Scioto that was looking at Scioto watershed and sustainability related to drinking water resources. It established some short-term goals and some longer-term 30-year type goals. That group still meets and has some great reading on what are some strategies to help manage that resource going forward. WAMO, the Water Management Association of Ohio, another great resource for webinars and training. And then a few of us have mentioned the CAL Council or Central Ohio Watershed Council. That's a group where a lot of stakeholders, watershed groups, other citizen organizations, municipalities, ourselves attend and coordinate, share information, review interesting legislation, ages submit letters together, that sort of thing. And then, like I said, another, I think, huge resource, Watershed. To your fellow watershed groups, it's kind of this, everyone's on the same side here, really helping push forward and move the needle. And there's a lot of experience, knowledge, and camaraderie to be had amongst these groups. So I think that's really valuable. And that's just one slide worth I probably can go on for. But I won't, because Laura Fay is going to talk for a little bit. So like I said, Laura is the Flow Science Committee Chair, involved in a lot of different projects and organizations in Central Ohio, and it's really experienced in watershed work. Laura, I'll let you talk about kind of your experience in Flow and watershed.
So just a little history about me. I've been studying water since I came to Ohio State in 1970. And I worked on Lake Erie, right? Lake Erie was dead. That was a big shock to me. I didn't realize that. But we had too much eutrophication, too much nutrients. But and then when after that stage, I worked on streams and wetlands. And then when I went to Ohio Department of Natural Resources, I worked on stream mitigation. So I love water. And then when people found out I was retiring, Flo asked me to volunteer for the board, even though I don't live in the watershed. Right? So I live in the Scioto. I'm passionate about the Scioto, and I think we all should, because that's where we get our drinking water for the most part. And we're very rich in water, but we also use water a lot. And with that, when we use water, it has to be clean, and that's energy. So I think I'll still need to be wise about water, but I want to go back to like 2000, and back in those days, ODNR was paying watershed groups for 10 years to hire them, right? So Flo did an inventory. I didn't bring it, but it was about this thick, and then we commented on the studies they did and the total maximum daily load. There's a lot in here, right? So understanding it, things like that, it takes all kinds of people with all kinds of backgrounds. So I think, any watershed group should try and be inclusive. Unfortunately, watershed groups are not funded anymore by ODNR. So if you want to start a watershed group, it truly will have to be grassroots unless you get membership money or, you want to hire someone. Flo went for several years without a watershed coordinator. When I started, they said Flo has a reputation of not having events. And I was shocked to hear that. But anyway, every watershed group is unique. Every watershed can do whatever they want. I mean, the freedom of it. But I think doing something and getting the rest of the residents motivated is key. And, light's not gonna switch on for everybody at the same time. Flo's been at this for 26 years now, and we have such a high turnover. It's continual education. But, just getting out there, I think you don't need to have a 501c3 to start. Just start, do litter pickups where you have momentum, or there's a lot of HOAs, Scioto. And I think last year, Harry Ruiz, one of the residents there, worked with a lot of the HOAs to and handed out free Columbus trees to plant. But it's just starting momentum. But litter pickups are essential this time of year. There's just so much trash on our roadways, and for wind, I guess, but it ends up in the waterways. So you can get it out there. So one thing, if you're interested, is Kick Butt Columbus is coming up. I don't know if it's too late to sign up for a ramp on one of the on the roadways, like 270, or we have close doing a ramp on Route 15. That gets people out there. Keep Columbus Beautiful has litter grabbers. You don't need a litter grabber. It gets a little tiring bending over for every piece of litter, but we've got kids. Gloves, I think, would be good though, and Green Columbus, or I'm sorry, Keep Columbus Beautiful does have gloves and litter grabbers and stuff like that. So, and I want to go back to what Henry said. Watersheds have come and gone. And so some watersheds insisted that they were going to only work on stormwater. And then when they felt like they had that addressed, they just went away. But there's other issues, right? I think watershed groups have to be flexible. They have to listen. One of our other groups, Friends of Rocky Fork, funded themselves a bingo hall. I thought that was huge. I thought, dang, they'll always have money. But then, I'm Catholic, right? But then the building went bad. So yeah, then they folded. And so Sierra Club has folded in Central. So, they used to be out there with us doing litter pickups, and there's always invasive removal, so it's really what you want to do and where you see the problems. And I just want to mention Friends of UA Park, Upper Arlington's half, Scioto half Low, or Olentangy. But if you want to learn how to do invasive removal, they have an event coming up on March 16th at Miller Park. It's one of our libraries. It's a little ravine, so that might be of interest. But they move honeysuckle, buckthorn, I think there, and then they also apply herbicide. So you could learn about that. They'll also be planting some of the Green Columbus seedling trees of the spring. If you did order some, you could go out and see what an event is like. And So I think there's lots of opportunities. If anybody wants to see Scioto data on what's going on in the Scioto, half of this book is Scioto and half is Olentangy from 2022. But I don't think you need to understand the data necessarily, right? I mean, this is about the fish and bugs and the chemistry, but there's other things that we see that we can all do something about. So. And then, if those of you are interested in development, there's another way you could help Watershed, and that's by signing up for stormwater variances. We're very lucky in Franklin, or in Columbus, I should say, they have something called a stream water protection zone. It's a little confusing because it varies, width varies based on the size of the drainage area. But if a developer wants to impinge on that area, they have to get a variance, they have to do mitigation, they have to make the public aware of it. And so that's when you can comment and say, no, we don't want that. We don't think that's good. So, that kind of public comment from citizens in Columbus is taken seriously. So, and then there's zoning things too. So, yeah. World's your oyster, you can do whatever you want, so I say go for it. And I'm living in the site and I like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Laura. The next section we have is you want to jump to that slide real quick, Matt. So we'll actually, we want to get feedback from you once you guys can kind of socialize a little bit. Feels like back in school, breaking into groups, work on a project. But I'd like to break into some groups and kind of just work through some questions and get feedback from everyone. But before we move on to that, is there any questions about my presentation or Laura's? We don't want to talk with you the whole time. We want to get you a chance to talk with each other, but anything from that?
Make sure we explain the acronyms, because there's a lot of
Yes.
3-letter, 20-letter syllable words that we kind of throw out there, and
Yeah.
it's instinctive of us, but forgive us for being presumptuous that what an HOA is, or 319, or 501c3.
Yeah.
I mean, please.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, David.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Laura can be the one to answer it. Is there a difference in how the Scioto River and the Olentangy River are controlled based on the sizing? This person was asking specifically about how low flow dams were taken out of the Olentangy River. Is that state initiated? Would it be different for the Scioto?
That 319 program is Clean Water Act, Section 319, and that does allow funding for removal of dams, but the Scioto is much bigger. Even the middle of Scioto is much bigger than the Olentangy. And also the city of Columbus has the O'Shaughnessy Dam and the Briggs Dam. Those are not going away because they're holding water back, right? They hold the water back and then they move it down for when we need drinking water. So those aren't going to go away. Flow only has one big dam left, and that's Delaware Dam. But it does affect how your water flow. Like in the summer, if it doesn't rain, they're holding the water up there for Delaware Lake so they can boat. And we get as little as 20 cubic feet per second. It's very small. And so, you might not be able to kayak on the whole, whereas you can always kayak. So I'm not exactly sure, but we do say the Olentangy is a regulated river and the Scioto is also.
To add a little bit to that, even though the Olentangy has a low release, it is something. On the Scioto, you've got 2 large dams, and then even downtown, smaller dam, the Dublin Road. Point is, you have some flow coming down the Scioto or the Olentangy. The Scioto has dry weather, does not even flow some years. That's how much water we're consuming. So that release from the Olentangy makes a difference downtown in the Scioto.
And there's a difference between a flood control dam reservoir like Elm Creek and Hoover Reservoir, Big Walnut Creek, versus Lowhead dams, that water is holding back a pool of water, which will flow at a certain height, but it's not controlling flooding or anything like that. A lot of Lowhead dams were also there aesthetically to create a nice little recreational pool way back when people wanted to go out from their backyards and recreate, or from a park or whatever. Some of them were also built just to protect crossing utility lines. So in some of those concrete things that you see, there could be a sanitary sewer line running through there, or stormwater line, or electrical utilities. And taking them out has other consequences, because you need to relocate that line that ran through there. That was formed, or one of the major reasons we got funding as well through the grants, were our first two projects. Our one project was taking out 2 Lowhead dams where there are no utilities involved. 3 of the 4 sides were already on public park property, so it's pretty easy to get a buy-in for that as well. And again, when we took them out, yeah, the pool was lower, but we had much more continuous flow and nice riffles and water trickling through and all that sort of stuff. And regular recreational canoeists, kayakers, people like that.
Awesome. So that's gonna wrap up questions. So
Yeah, Henry, before we jump into the breakdowns, I'll give you a little bit of food for thought on number 3. So geographic area. So Henry mentioned that there's no current TMDL for the middle side. They did study in 2010, I believe, but they did not produce a whole. The study area was essentially downstream from Mill Creek at River Mile 155, 60, somewhere up there, down to just above the confluence of the Darby, I believe, River Mile 100. So that means their definition that they started using there included Walnut Creek that goes down through Canal Winchester, Big Walnut Creek, which includes Allen, Black Lick, and Big Walnut Creek. That's the third one. And then, give or take the Olentangy, I'm not sure how they were associating that in that study. But if you thought about that geographic area, then you're talking about, are we biting off more than we need to chew here? Is that really what the citizens think of when we think of Middle Scioto? Or are we talking about the confluence downtown to above O'Shaughnessy or beyond? Or are we talking about like the folks representing Green Lawn and that? Are we talking about 270 and up, something like that? That's yours to define. That's the groups to define, right? It could be smaller, it could be larger, but that's something to think about. So when you get to number 3, just assess it in your mind, and we'll see where all those comments come in, and we'll start maybe figuring that out.
Can I just throw out, in the Olentangy, we're very lucky. We have a lot of neighborhood groups or stream groups, individual tributaries. So we have a Dina Brook community. They hold monthly events. We have a Sharon neighborhood that takes care of Shared Meadows wetlands. And there's a Glen Echo group. Now, I don't know that they're still always active, but yeah, having that level of detail is I think, fine.
yeah, and so I'll grab a big map from the front. It's got kind of the watershed. I'll bring it out. Yeah, you guys already got it. But like I said, we'll maybe break into groups of 4 or 5. We have a bunch of notepads back there with markers. We'll save everyone's kind of answers. And kind of we'll spend maybe we have 10 questions total. It's 6:20 right now, so maybe we'll spend 3 or 4 minutes on each question, kind of as a group, and then we'll announce, hey, let's move on to question 2 or whatever. And then at the end, we'll kind of have each group give 1 or 2 of their answers that they questions that they liked, and then kind of wrap things up. Get out of here. So let me grab these and sort of look around, find your partners.
Do you want to see me group with the watershed group? So we're.
Yeah, if you want. It'd be nice if you have little people that have more of that.
Yeah,
yeah, all 5.
I think we got.
Put one right here, yeah.
Well, it's-
Sure.
Got it.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Pull the chair around to the other side of the table.
I,
Here. About 30 seconds.
But I'm gonna get some things, I don't wanna.
Thank you.
Oh, I was gonna say, just basically, like everything, the things that you guys should, I am really directly. First.
Couple last minute scribbles about what you love, maybe about a watershed, about the watershed.
And they also have a lot of. There's a lot.
All right, so we're gonna throw a little bit of a curveball to our plan, but we're gonna have to report out a few things individually. But I think what we'd rather do is kind of talk through these as a group a little bit. We've got your information recorded there, so we are going to compile that. One of the next steps I think Henry's gonna talk about is a survey, after this meeting. Then we'll use some of that information to compile some of those questions and gather more information around. But let's just go through these real quickly and kind of get our brain going on some of these. So what do you want from a watershed group? What are a couple of things you might have written down, or anyone want to share what their group came up with? Yeah.
People that advocate for more green space, more trees.
A champion for the water. Yep. Anything you guys?
Neighbor education, and we also talked about like restoration projects.
Great. So implementation projects going on and anything you guys like to share?
The thing we came back to time and time again was litter, what I consider. So
Litter cleanup, beautification, that type of thing?
We had citizen expertise dealing with the Columbus, definitely billiards, other municipalities, and then also education and outreach to kind of maximize impact.
That's great. And I think the folks that work with watersheds and have been part of watershed groups, I think they would agree that all those things can fit under the umbrella. So, like hearing those. So what are some things you stated about why you're interested in participating? Let's reverse it. Go back and forth. You guys have anything on that?
Development concerns. Our water use is increasing, wastewater is 95% of the Scioto. Urban issues, agriculture, upstream, et cetera.
Anything you guys had?
we just generically said environmental concern.
I'll say this in a certain way, it's not really a joke, but the Scioto is better than it looks. Okay, so
So it gets overlooked, it gets a bad rap, right? So we want to elevate that, make people aware of the resource they have. Do you guys have anything you wanted to add under number 2? Do you have anything you wanted to highlight on number 2?
I think a lot of us were talking about environmental concerns and then just generally conservation and just being like.
So preserving the open space we have, protecting from future impacts, things like that. Great. Talk about geographic areas. In your minds, what are you guys thinking of when you think of Middle Scioto?
We were talking about essentially like Dublin O'Shaughnessy Dam down in the, south of downtown.
That's downtown. Yeah.
270.
270 up. Okay, so Franklin County.
Northwest to southwest on that side, western side.
You guys have any thoughts there, Laura?
I'd just like to mention that Preservation Parks
Yeah.
was wanting to know if they were included. Because they have several things up in Delaware County.
Yeah.
So if you include them, they'd like to be involved.
Yeah. Great. Did you guys have anything in mind when you were thinking boundaries?
We struggled to come up with like a concrete geographical boundary, but or more from a philosophical standpoint, it made sense to have it close to home with volunteers. And kept people traveling a little bit of ownership and
the area and do more likely to participate.
Right. Laura had to jump all the way over the old Andy to find a group, so that's a really good point. You get more involvement, you get more impact, and you got an opportunity to do it before back there.
I think we agree.
I would point out that what we do up here is all the way to particularly county line of these. That's where your wastewater. When you flush,
Southerly wastewater treatment plant.
it goes there, so making a huge difference for much further forward, all the way down there.
So, maybe just to keep it from being overwhelming, main stem coming up from the county line or something like that. And then wherever you decided that, if it's Franklin County or if it's Delaware County or how far up, you go past the zoo, something like that. Did you have with that?
No, I mean, I just said, yeah, you gotta have stopping and ending point.
Yeah.
We get approached by a lot of people outside our area,
Right.
and sometimes we just have to say, we can give you a little advice, but we can't physically get our folks up there. If you're looking to start up a group,
Especially as a potentially a new group, you don't want to overextend early and try to appease everyone. So I think, staying focused will help with that.
I just want to say, I like the idea of like focusing on central Ohio, like 270 loop, but then kind of cutting it off maybe around Circleville, like where Big Darby goes in. Just because we can kind of get the complexity of habitat and measure the pollution impacts downstream from the population center of Columbus.
You've got population center, southerly, then you've got it.
Yeah.
It's improving maybe from the Darby and big populated with species, things like that. So
So
that could be,
actually measure everything as well, having some area, way a little bit lower than Columbus.
Hey, I just wanted to say one other thing. The Scioto River quality is is a national success story from Columbus on down. It was so polluted 40 plus years ago, it was a mess all the way to the Ohio River. Now it's proposed, and I don't know if it's finished yet, but proposed for exceptional water habitat, which is the highest category for the state of Ohio. So that's a major difference. I mean, that's like national, that's like Cuyahoga River burning level, okay, if not better. It's actually much bigger than that Cuyahoga River.
so as you're thinking of activities, what are some of the things, again, this will overlap a little bit what you want from the group, but what are some activities that you think a watershed group should focus on?
We talked a lot about like cleanup and going out and planning and also doing some advocacy. That's all those things that are accessible. But sorry.
Yeah, getting volunteers doing work. Yeah, great. You guys have anything?
Also cleanup, but we did say that at least at the start, we thought it would make sense to focus on areas that were kind of profile to the general public.
Yeah. Yeah, so, well, Dublin has Bridge Park, that area, stuff like that, an event there or something, to do with that area, just the name recognition or something like that.
Well, right forward, and, it makes sense if you can get homeowners associations, church groups, Boy Scouts, whatever. Get little pockets to take ownership of their spot. Just because we define it as the whole area, we don't have to overwhelm ourselves at first. But we can start, and there's points where we have volunteers and then build the base and then eventually connect those dots.
And so one of Henry's responsibilities at the district is helping coordinate volunteers. So, he can list projects in certain areas, we can get it out to a volunteer list, access other people's volunteer lists, things like that as well. So great. So what are some of your main concerns for the watershed? We've heard a couple of them, the development and everything from agriculture impact. What resonates with you and you put on your list there? So.
We were talking a lot about like pollution, water quality, protecting drinking water, and also protecting wildlife habitats, wildlife management. It's really important to us.
Great. Sure.
I think we should all be concerned about E. coli levels. Because it'd be nice if we could all have our kids swim
in the river, and a lot of times you'll see no swimming. And that's why, so. I have a question in that context. How difficult is it to test for E. coli? Is there test strips that volunteers could use, or is it very costly? There's some
You know the
DNA
answer to that?
I don't know the specific number, it's not a huge process.
Yeah, it's more of a lab.
Yeah, it's a lab.
So you have to find a lab, you can sample.
You have to grow it.
I don't remember their costing. but-
Yeah, right, I mean, but that's the issue right away, there. It's not like the salt or strips that could be distributed directly to volunteers. I think it's about $50 a sample per, but, and then there's a time.
We,
There's what?
we can get pricing a little better, but again, it's the process. You know, there's collectors and things like that. When you have a watershed group, can you leverage City of Columbus to potentially allow that lab usage and offset those costs? Those are the type of things you open up a little bit more when there's a group and it's citizens asking it, rather than other organizations and people trying to demand it. Folks do listen to it.
There should be data on that now from the city, one source. YMPA just last year did a survey, that's sort of that would point out those potential problem areas are. So if people are interested in that, which is a good thing, there's a good place to start, like reading this information.
You also hear things about algae blooms as well, where they say keep the dogs out. You had that issue in our area for a period of time at an adjoining lagoon. That was getting it, again, it's in the watershed, it's up along the riverway, whatever, but you get no dogs, don't have your dogs in there because they're gonna die if they drink that water. So those are things happening. Now it's in the city of Westerville, in our backyard.
Did you have any concerns listed that haven't been?
Our concern is less like the water quality
Yeah.
more on physical litter last.
Yeah. Number 6 here, I think is what we're on. What activities should be considered outside of the scope of this group? So we're looking for things that this group shouldn't get involved in, right? We, again, with spreading ourselves too thin or leaving it to other organizations. Is there anything we think shouldn't be considered by this group, something they should have?
He said including whole watershed.
Right. Narrow that down. Okay, good. Did you have anything that you thought shouldn't go? Laura, any experience that you think, don't get wrapped up in that? It's not good for watershed groups.
Don't build any bridges. Sorry, we did to connect the neighborhood. Yeah, I think mission creep should be avoided and, maybe just documenting this, your priorities would keep you from that.
Yeah, watershed groups, they fill a niche that the government organizations often can't. So, I think understanding that over time and being able to utilize that, I think Flo in particular, in fact, they ask questions and demand some answers that Henry can't ask, because whether we like it or not, we have funding partners, we have resources that we need, and we need to say things and present things a certain way. Watershed groups don't want to go completely off the spectrum with that, because it would be against your efforts, but there's a balance there, that watershed groups can speak in a way and ask for things that folks like us can. Have anything else on that?
Oh, we didn't really want to get lawsuits or legal matters.
Yeah, you want to stay on that,
We
right?
wanted to stay on that.
Yeah, very good, very good. So we'll talk about kind of the structure of the group, but how often do you think meetings would be needed, or how often? Let me ask it a little more this way. How often could you see yourselves meeting?
Monthly, quarterly.
Monthly, quarterly?
Yeah, because, we have folks that are involved in other things and, some concerns about how much they can commit of themselves to that. So,
Monthly, quarterly, Joe, with most folks, you guys have anything? Or was that about?
So maybe every other month or
Every other
every
month?
month, we're really anxious, but I think like if you don't meet at least every other month, you might not really make progress and people will kind of fall off the grid.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think what it looks like in maybe the first year, something comes to be, would be different than what it would look like moving forward. So that's good, and I think Henry will definitely, in a follow-up survey, really try to hone in on some of those things.
I think as monthly is sort of the minimum in my mind, yeah, there's a time commitment. Especially if we have to find the structure first, and then eventually it could be subgroups with different themes, you know, one litter cleanup, one water quality, one basic removal and tree planting, sort of focus it in different areas, and then it could be maybe less, but we have to kind of find a structure. And
Yes.
I found an EPA document that's a little bit old, 97, that
Yes.
is really the whole idea about how it should work. And I assume, other than the way they describe communication, which has changed since 97. Put it mildly, I think this still applies, or is there newer documents out?
Yeah, I don't know if that's one I've looked at, but we've probably got a couple too that when we had watershed coordinators through the grant Laura mentioned earlier to build it, they've got some guidance there. So there is still some EPA guidance on how to do it and what you should look for. Also, Center for Watershed Protection, or someone has a good handbook or guide too. That might be it. That might. So, but certainly another thing I'll say about just meetings and meeting times, even in that first year, now with virtual meetings and things like that, you know, having that hybrid option available, recording meetings, stuff like that we can do as well. So Laura, could you maybe, and David, even Anthony, could you quickly, before we start talking about number 8, talk about how flow is structured, and maybe fact and Creek Association, if you know, I assume you do.
So Flow started out as a 501c3. And that might have been more to get the grant from ODNR. And the only reason I would counsel you is there are legal requirements for being a 501c3. You're supposed to meet monthly. You have to submit your taxes, and even though you don't have to pay tax, and then you have to be registered with the Attorney General's office. That costs like $100. And that happens every 5 years. So there's some cost associated with that. If you want to do that, I would say, don't get bogged down in it. And like, for example, Rapid 5, right? They've been around for 3 years. They formed a 501c3. We haven't heard from them since. And so I don't know if it distracted them or what the problem is, but anyway, so yeah, 501c3, but if you want to apply for grants, you could ask someone to be your fiscal sponsor. That is a 501c3, and there's a lot of groups that do that. Informal council, the cow council we have, that might be a way to get you guys started right away, get someone to attend that. Those meetings are every other month. Henry's the secretary, Shelley's the chair. And find out. Oh, Central Ohio Watershed. Sorry, we do like acronyms. And we think it's funny because it's used to be called Cowtown. But so that's an informal council, and Friends of Ravines attends that sometimes, although they're falling apart. So yeah, but anyway, that get us place at the table, find out about more resources, and then I'd say let's plan a cleanup, if not for Earth Day. Green Columbus.
It's already got activities going on.
Green Columbus, the Scioto sweep in the fall, right? Where they try and get different cleanups at different places on the Scioto. And
Dublin also always does an annual August event where we send volunteers to all of our parks along the river and have them get in the water and clean it out.
So how is FACT structured?
Yeah, so we've been in business like Flo, we just celebrated our 25th anniversary. Yeehaw, we're in our 26th year. We're a 501c3. We do have a board of officers. We have a bylaws, constitution, whatever you want to call it. We meet monthly, either in person or via electronic means. We have an annual meeting where all of our members come and attend and elect additional folks and or vote on major issues that are required. We have a bank account, a treasurer, we provide our tax reports, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, to start up, 501c3 these days is a little bit more expensive with the IRS. It's like over $500 just for the initial application. And then there are annual payments that we make to either the state, even the city of Columbus wants us to be licensed or whatever, so that we can formally ask you for money, I guess. But
Costs $50 to.
yeah, but by being 501c3, you can also apply for a lot of grants, be recognized sometimes more formally around the table as opposed to an informal. But there's many civic organizations and well, even homeowners associations sometimes pay a boatload to be part of that, but it's great to have that recognition. And like I said earlier, they don't necessarily say, well, how many dues paying members do you have? You can say we've got 1,000 followers on Facebook or whatever, but there is some nicety that we're kind of friends around the table, but we are not lobbyists, but we're lobbying on behalf of the environment and we want to keep our water clean. Most people won't argue against that.
You don't call that lobbying, you call that advocacy.
Yeah, we were talking about that, so.
Nonprofits can advocate.
Anthony,
Darby
Darby Creek Association.
Creek Association has existed since 1972. It got started by opposing a dam from the city of Columbus and a dam by the Army Corps of Engineers on Big Darby Creek.
That would have created a giant lake.
Two
Wow.
over 20 miles, comparable to what is coming off the others. So it escaped that, but now DCA is focused on dealing with development at a mega scope, tens of thousands of acres at a time, and is an all volunteer organization that doesn't take any funds from any government entity, sort of with the approach that would mean investment on the part of that entity. And so they've been lobbyists, advocates, whatever you want to call it, for the Darby Creek, Little Darby Creeks, solely. So we're not tied to a particular program or anything like that. A lot of times the positions are in opposition to the local governments. So it's high level things that are looking at planning at a large scale.
So hearing that, hearing those things, what are general thoughts? Is this something that ideally comes together in a more formalized 501(c)(3) board members, committees, things like that? Or in your mind, is this an advisory group, a friends of that is more informalized? What's your just initial reaction? We're not holding anybody to their beliefs after this meeting.
I'm a board member on 501c3, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things where, it really needs to start informally to make sure that you've got enough people who are going to be there to support the work and volunteer for the work and help to bring awareness and recognition of the work that's being done.
Right.
So that you can get the funding and then figure out what to do. Because it's a lot of work, just like you said, it requires a board, it requires a bylaws, it requires IRS filings, and you have to have people who help you do those things, because if you're fully a volunteer organization that doesn't pay anybody to do it, you have to have somebody who's doing some things managing, right? So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, keep in mind, we at one time had an executive director, because again, we had funding from ODNR. But then that went away, but then we still had a good viable board all volunteers that are doing all that work now, that you gotta be careful about burnout and sustainability and succession. I hate to say the word, but I can say it, younger people that will take over because I'm getting old and get tired of doing
And
it.
with those ODNR grants, we had Friends of Olentangy, Friends of Allen Creek, Friends of
River.
Scioto River, Blacklick Creek.
Wanna-
There was a Little Walnut Creek Action Group.
My friend's a big walnut with Bill.
There's a Friends of Walnut. So what remains are folks that kind of were there during the peak watershed groups and are out back in. So, you know, it's a little more challenge to get things formalized now, but this is a good start. Do you guys have anything around formality versus informality?
We were definitely towards the formality of the start.
Anything?
I think formalizing.
Yeah, sounds like all the groups landed there.
We didn't talk about this, but if the SWCD could just put out a call for people who would organize themselves and not depend on the SWCD to keep themselves going, and somehow that would be good, but that message has to be, to me, one of the main messages.
So what support do you envision for FSWCD? Because that's exactly right. We touched on it at the beginning, Henry reiterated it, but, you know, we don't have the capacity or the want really to drive this. We want to hear what you folks need and support you in whatever efforts you do. Meeting space, research, background, volunteers. We can help organize those things. We don't want to go into the middle of Scioto and say, Franklin Soil and Water is going to do this event. Does anybody want to come? We want to hear what those events should be. We want someone to lead it. We have an AmeriCorps program. Corey's one of our AmeriCorps members now. So we've got 12 AmeriCorps folks in Central Ohio now that can assist with projects, can assist with groups. We want to provide those folks to you. At the end of the point, we don't want to say we're a watershed group and come to our meetings and do that. It's just not something we have the capacity to do. So what types of support might you envision though, Franklin Soil and Water having that would help you kind of get there if you were building a watershed?
One of the things that we talked about was if we were going to partner with municipalities, we would probably need some funds to get going. So like, you know, some money, some grants, some things like that. And then definitely like resource sharing, because we realize that like it's, you know, this isn't something that exists in a vacuum. A lot of people do a lot of things. And, you know, the more that we work together with all of these other groups to bring recognition and awareness, things that we're doing, the more we're going to get people involved. There's a lot of folks out there that want to do this stuff. They just don't know how to be involved with it. So that's what.
You know, we've got all these great representatives from all these other groups, all these experts in water quality and stuff. We didn't have anybody like that helping us. We wouldn't really
Yeah, you start over,
support
right?
it.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's where Franklin's soil and water conservation or any other group that's represented
Cal Council.
can really make a difference with that expertise to prioritize what.
David, you had some?
The good news is we've lost a lot of groups, but the city of Columbus recognizes that.
Yes.
City of Columbus has asked us both, individually, I got a call, let's have a conference call regarding this. They want to help redevelop, rejuvenate some of these watershed groups. I know Portsea, Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, your MPO, your Metropolitan Planning Organization group, they want to have someone there because again, they want to have allies.
Yep.
That they're not, they can't always say, developer, don't cut down these trees and develop, because they want the money, but at the same time, they want to preserve, but they can't say both. So we've had sometimes, hey, David, don't say I said this, but we got this coming on, can you help us out here on the other side? So it's a really interesting, strange bedfellow relationship, and we will not say no for them to donate dues to us, like Tony's group. Sorry.
Well, Henry mentioned that we do a lot of work with communities in MS4. mapping. So that's, EPA permit that each community is required to do certain things. They've got minimum control measures in there. One of those things is public outreach, right? So City of Columbus, Dublin, they all have to do these things, right? So if they have a mechanism like a watershed group that they can help check that list on that annual report, they don't mind giving some funds and supporting and things like that. There's also one in there now that in the 5-year permit term, they have to do a restoration or retrofit or an activity like that. So these type of groups can help, elevate what projects should be done along those lines. Anything else about how soil and water might be able to help?
I'm gonna kind of try to tie a couple of these things together. I think starting off formally would be amazing, just kind of, like everybody said, gather support before you do.
Talk like this, right?
The other thing is, I kind of think about it from a standpoint, like, what are we producing, for the community? We are actually gonna develop this into a 501c3. I think the potential is there just because of the size of the watershed. So if I think about it as like, what are we doing? We're producing clean water. And so essentially, if you want to get a lot done, compare this to some other projects that I've seen done, you can't be afraid to like ask for money for some places to just have the funding to be able to do some of this stuff. And some of the largest projects where like NBI has done the most in monitoring have come from projects where a wastewater treatment plant is paying voluntary dues to a watershed group to get a lot of sampling and monitoring done. And the reason they're doing that is because the product is essentially clean water. Watershed Group is doing stream restorations for hundreds of miles. And I've seen this done on the west side of Chicago. They can actually claim they've restored 100 miles of streams. So the wastewater treatment plants there are paying them large dues to watershed groups because the plants have essentially been fined at times by the EPA for not meeting water quality standards. But it's really hard to meet those water quality standards if your wastewater treatment plant discharges to animals. So if you can't improve the habitat, so like that's why I've seen just a ton of funding for some of these things come from. And yeah, I think gaining interest is great. That's where I would advocate. So that sounds like one wonderful idea, but I would hate for us to lose sight of the total large amount of good that we can do in the whole side of the watershed. If we do, I want to say like just treat it a little bit more like we're producing a product, and then you know what I mean, to like actually get people involved, and get money from these projects. You have to produce some type of result or some type of repeatable sampling and monitoring where we're showing how much the watershed has improved in these areas. So yeah, that's just
And funding sources like that, one of the major concerns Central Ohio has right now is development, intel, some of the things that are going on with that. We also look at it as an opportunity. Those corporations are going to generate millions, tens of millions of dollars for sustainability projects. One of our efforts that we're working on with the Nature Conservancy right now is making sure when they spend those monies, that it stays here in Central Ohio. So groups like this being ready and being willing to take on things, and it's important right now. So those are all great points. So we're gonna wrap up. All right, so let's leave on a positive note. Was this Madison or Henry that came up with the final question? This is Henry, he's a lover. What do you love about your project?
Oh, gosh. If we got there. Yeah, I'll just say it.
Just individually.
I mean, I love the fact that there's just the diversity of where the water is coming from, where it is, that it can be this brook that runs through your neighborhood, or it could be a larger stream, or it could be a river. And it's fascinating. And then just all of the diversity to like the trees and the wildlife. And it brings so much more to the community than just looking at a piece of flat land that's been bulldozed over.
What do you love about it?
I just love looking at the green areas. I just think we need to do more of that.
Yeah.
Conservation.
Anything?
I love the woods, the Scioto around nature trails on woods, and see hawks of all colors. And it just makes me peaceful.
You think, Tori?
Yeah, I love seeing all of the people here who are interested in conserving.
Our people.
Personally, the peace and tranquility when I'm out there in the waterway and I was canoeing one summer in the middle of urban Bexley and a beaver. In the middle of the day, was swimming right next to us in the water, holding a branch wherever, and I was like, that gave me really cool goosebumps. So like, you know, their mouth fall there and whatever, they're like, okay, we did something by removing these two low end dams, so
Okay.
yay us, or whatever.
Yeah. All right.
I was raised on Lake Erie, so the Scioto is my substitute watershed. Lake Erie, I love seeing the sunsets and the sunrises over Griggs as well.
I love that 2,000 years ago, that Scioto was absolutely a key part of the world, connecting Newark and Chillicothe, which was two of the significant places that we now recognize as of September as being World Heritage Places, and that it remains to be super important today.
History, yeah. Fascinating.
I like watching people water ski on the side of the river in Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
I like access to the water, the bike trail that runs down the river, down the trail. I guess when I think about the water, it's a huge resource we have. And you see like Intel factory coming, there's other people who are looking at this resource too.
Yes.
So.
Great.
We have started sort of playing a little game, following the tributaries and discovering
Oh,
what
that's
they
cool.
look like. And discovered a couple of interesting things, like there's no water in the North Fork of the Indian Run from Kaufman down. Where it's like, go. What happened?
Yeah. Gets,
Was it
goes underground there for a
there
while.
that we saw at Ferris Wright Parks there that hopefully can be protected, stuff like that, and just seeing what the different pieces of what the tributaries look from stuff like that looks nice, from some ditches that are really just like this, and the water rushes down just to learn about that. Learning is really what I love.
Great. What do you love about the watershed?
Wildlife, but above and below the water. I think it's so special that we've got all these like right here.
Great. Very good.
I just think it's nice to get, see some nature so close to the city.
Gosh, I think it's cool to see that, look at that map and see where the Otways River is, and where the Scioto River starts. It's like very, very close to each other. And one ends up at Lake, one ends up in the Gulf of Mexico. So that's what we think about. I like kayak, I like fish.
Great.
I think wildlife and just like the water just draws people.
Well, when my kids were little, we lived in Clifford and they walked down to the Scioto and I watched it mold who they became. And I always like to say, my kids are grown and nobody's living like they used to play video games. That's a big sport for a single mom. And so, I look at all these kids and so few of them are connected to our national stuff. And that just breaks my heart. And, like Dave knows, I used to run Port Oregon Community Service and I'm bringing the boy from service. And we do these cleanups and you'd watch their faces as they changed during the course of an event. And they'd start off like ticked that they were forced to be here. And by the time they're done, they're thanking me. And I'm like, you're getting your hours, but it was just eye-opening. And I just love that whole transition. I wish I could do that for every single kid that lived in the city of Columbus. So I'm very happy. But it's life-changing. And it molds them and it turns them into who they become as adults. And that's just awesome to even be a little piece of that. Just feels like a privilege.
I think I like the consistency of it, like, I think that's what conservation is all about, like, we're trying to keep it what it is while everything else is changing around it. It's cool that we have kind of like this, big piece of history that as the city changes, you see every picture, everything's different, like the river's still there.
Yeah. Especially with Dan's on the block.
Yeah, and then it changed.
I will confirm that Alex is really into trash. I see him, deal with it. He does a great job, but
Yes.
it's amazing how much he's,
How much you think?
how much he's removed from the center.
So,
Tons of trash.
yeah. So we have a large event that we've been confluence since 2017, and it's always been through like with help and flow and on this. It's not quartered. None of that. It's not everybody do it. Yeah, there was that. Yeah, no, it's really cool to just get out there and get your hands dirty and like just do something. You know, advocacy is great, but that's why I really love like Green Columbus, and because you can just plan an event and just do something. It's really nice to see like just a giant pile of trash that you can pick up at the end of the event. You know, like that. It's like, oh, it took 100 people. That's a lot of stuff. It's not a lot.
Consistently have 100 people here.
Yeah, we had 145 people.
Yeah. The other things are like, don't forget the long view. You know, these guys are younger than I am. Hopefully we'll be doing good stuff for decades, but you know, I've seen suds in downtown Columbus on the Scioto, several feet high. Years ago, back in the 80s. There was a dam there, the Main Street Dam that was taken out, and it had a big difference in the feel of the river. Now it's a sort of kayaking destination about Whittier Street. So keep that long view. That's what it is.
Well, thank you. I think what Henry and Madison and I love is that there's folks like you that will even take this step, right? You guys will commit time to going through this process and thinking this out with us. And I think what we need to realize is that with watershed groups like this, you know, maybe there's a lot more of you out there potentially, right? Because most people don't see the things that you see. They don't see it as a resource. They don't see it as an amenity. It's just something they drive past when they're going to different places in Columbus. And the more we can do to get people connected to it, the more we can affect the things that we want to get done. And this is a really good start. So we're going to wrap up. I think we're probably okay if people want to mill around for 10 to 15 minutes or something, but then we're going to have to shut down. Madison gets really tired and grumpy after a little while. You said you did.
Oh, you don't have to announce it, everybody.
But thank you. We are going to take the information you provided here tonight. Henry's going to distill things down, get some questionnaire surveys, something probably out to you folks. And I would imagine Henry try to get a meeting again in a couple months or maybe sooner to just kind of expand on these things and get more feedback and maybe talk about tangible things. Maybe it is getting some things on the calendar for volunteer events the first year, where you're talking about watershed topics and groups and things like that while you're doing an activity and things like that. And then we see where it goes sort of from there, right?
Yeah, please tell your friends, tell other groups, or send them my way. I've been cold calling a lot of people, not getting calls back, et cetera. I mean, there's a lot of organizations out there, you don't even know if anyone's there anymore. So please, it's just spread the word and then send out the next meeting invite, share that way. Yeah.
And feel free also to reach out to the active watershed groups. I left our little fat green trifold on the back side of the table, grab that. Follow us or Flo or whoever on Facebook, go to our website, etc. You can see what's going on, get a sample of what's on our calendar, the activities that are happening. And we don't have to be garbage people either. You can go out there and just take a hike or get on the bike or just float down the waterway, or in the summertime, just walk in the water. Just have a good time. You just meet friends and okay, maybe bring a trash bag or two just in case, but make it a good time just to get out there. Because again, you don't know what's beyond the honeysuckle unless you go and explore.
Friends of Ravines does a spring walk, usually to look at spring ephemerals. So
along the educational.
All right.
So thank you, and thank you
Good
to the
job.
folks who joined us online. If anyone stuck around on there, they're gone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.